Welcome all to our second Sunday service. We are so glad to see you. We invite you into this spiritual community of hope, courage, and passion. Now, let's together take a deep breath and release it as we ready our hearts and minds to enter into this precious space together. We light this candle to begin our service. And now, our opening reading. The I Am is a mystery. From the uncreated flows the Word, and the Word is mystery. It has no beginning, no end. My I Am is a part of mystery. If my I Am had a name, awe would forbid me to write it down. My I Am is sent to walk the earthly road for a while. Though wretched the load and sackcloth on my skin, my hope is not spent. I walk on and smile, inexhaustible, my spiritual wealth within. Beautiful reading from William Hermans. We are so pleased to have Reverend Christine Tata as our guest speaker today. Christine brings to her preaching ministry a diverse resume that includes a pastoral ministry in churches seeking growth and resilience, human resources leadership and employee relations, and policy development, adjunct gigs teaching literature and communication at various colleges, and nearly 2 decades of training and performance in professional theater. Her first encounter with making sacred space. Ordained in the United Church of Christ, she has served UCC, Unitarian Universalist, and ecumenical congregations in Colorado, California, and Texas. She is an itinerant preacher online, an on-site and certified international interim, recently serving as acting lead pastor at Friends Church in College Station, an interim senior minister, at Trinity UCC UMC in Austin, Texas. Reverend Christine eagerly anticipates beginning as the regular part-time minister for our San Marcos Unitarian Universalist Fellowship in August of 2023. Meanwhile, and through it all, Christine's alter ego, Reverend Dr. Sparky, shares messages of courage in the face of absurdity and real religion for real people at www.tiktok.com, at Reverend Dr. Sparky, and Instagram. But ladies and gentlemen, peace to you all. Please welcome Reverend Tata.
Thank you so much for your generous introduction. You have done what almost everyone does, and I bless you and praise you, but you've mispronounced my name. It's all done. It's in Italy, it is Tata, and my husband was Italian, and the last name in Italy was pronounced Tata. In America, they've said Tata, so it's Reverend Tata. But you can call me Christine and just avoid that altogether. It is good to be here with all of you in what I call the Quantum Church. Not the Zoom Church, that's a brand name. The Quantum Church. I call it that because I've appropriated the term quantum entanglement from physics, which I do not really understand, but I believe to be the quantum entanglement attraction of particles across time and space. That's what we have. That's what we have with you all, each in your separate spaces, joined together in this virtual room, connected somehow over time and space, even if we are not physically in the same room. But you are together today to hear music, to hear words of inspiration, and to share this message that I am speaking, hopefully with a way for you to bring it out into the world again in the real. And later, after I'm done talking, you will share together your joys and concerns and continue to make this community of yours sacred time and space, continuing on. I invite you again to reflect with me now from where you are on what it means to be in community, in church, which I have defined for myself as the place where the mind and the mysteries meet. We're here to contemplate what that means. The mysteries that some will call God, and the mind that some will say is the crowning achievement and extent of human life. Now, here's a spoiler alert. I'm not going to wait till the end to say where I think the mind and the mysteries meet. I'm going to tell you right now what I believe is the site where the mind and the mysteries meet. I believe it is right where you are in your very room, in the palm of your hand, on the tip of your tongue, at the seat of your pants, in the heart of your hearts. It is right where you are in your embodied flesh. That's what I'm going to tell you. And that's what I want us all to believe and take into the world. But here's how we're going to get there. First, because we're people in progressive religion, we have to define our terms, right? We have to unpack them. That's what people do in churches of free-thinking people. You will say, perhaps some of you, the mind is much more than the flesh. The mind is an elevated logical machine. It's consciousness, it's computing power. It transcends the biological. It has input and output. It is the kind of computer we love and imitate. We duplicate it with silicon and signals you can't even see. We live by logic. If Aristotle walked in the room, we would give him the keys to the city. It is the mind that makes us human. With our minds, nothing is beyond our understanding. Many will say this, and they will live by that, by the rational. But what about the mysteries? The mysteries, the transcendent sense of wonder about all that we do not understand. Mysteries are the cosmic realms in which the mystics play and have played for millennia. The mysteries are the unknown parts of our existence. And they too have been a feature of our humanity ever since we began to walk upright and call to each other from campfire to campfire in the night. The mysteries include the concepts of fate, infinity, mortality, questions of life after death and before death, and the great mystery that people have called the gods, or God, or Yahweh, throughout history and before. And that last overarching concept, the concept of God, is what makes people like me ask, well, if there is no God, why do we even have that concept? Why do nearly all people in every place perceive something so infinite, they can only call it by a name that everyone understands and no one understands? So when I say the mysteries, you must define them for yourself. But please define them as broadly and as large as you can. And please define them in the affirmative if you can. Not, oh, I don't believe in that God, but the God or the love or the largeness that you do believe in. And then give yourself A for effort when you fail to define those mysteries with words. Because by definition, those mysteries are those experiences and perceptions which cannot be explained. The mysteries are so real that they make the everyday world seem false by comparison. The mysteries may only be accessible to us through song, or music, or dreams, or love in the community, or kindness we receive that we didn't deserve, or sudden intuitive decisions we make that send us on new paths and change our lives. And although I love words so much, I must say that words are probably the worst way we have to access those mysteries. Still, human beings default to words as a result of many thousands of years of cultural evolution. So I stop here and I say, we are still in this room, probably in most of our mainland Western lives, people of the book. That's the roots of our denomination, Christians, Jews, Muslims, which are billions of people around the world. We have for thousands of years lived within a culture that is based on a story that reads, in the beginning was the Word. And then goes on to invite us and celebrate more stories told in millions of words, all trying to describe the mystery, the great I am. Maybe this is the mind's attempt to capture and be in control of those mysteries. Maybe. It's the best we can do. But here's what's happened in the last couple of centuries. Science, the mind, has learned some things that expose how language has wanted to run things all along. And it has looked at how other experiences are actually affecting not the mind necessarily, but our physical brain, back to the body. For example, studies have shown that babies learning to talk can sort early on words from music. That's one of the first sorting that babies do when they hear things. They differentiate words from music very early on. Music is a preset in our brain. Add to that another data point, another gift from science. Mystics in meditative states generate brain waves that are visibly different on imaging. It's true. You can change your brain. Maybe not enough for some of us. Here's another data point from the mind doing its work. Hearing the right words can cause a measurable release of physical hormones in the physical body that change the way we feel and can change the way we can behave. And these are just words affecting the body. How much more so does music do this to us? Let's stop for a minute and sit in your room and recall music that has made you dance, clean the house more efficiently when you put on rock and roll, music that has empowered you to get out of a mood you were in and could not. It's physical. It's in your body. These are clues to where mind and the mysteries are meeting, right in your flesh. As a beloved friend of mine put it, we are simply biological soul-building machines. So everybody take a breath, wiggle around a little bit, because this is a long talk, and I'm giving you a lot of data points, but we're getting somewhere. We are biological soul building machines. And I'm hoping that in this moment, you're allowing yourself to relax and say, wait, what is my body telling me right now? I'm getting a lot of words. How am I feeling? Our mind, our consciousness is the product of thousands of years of R&D, constant beta testing, updates going on in the background, maybe while you're asleep, just like your PC, like your phone. I have no idea how the phone works or how to work it, and it can't always explain to me. My mind can't tell me about the other experiences, but it's a powerful tool when it works, and I don't wish to be without it. But here's where it turns my talk. Get ready. All of our great minds at work for all these centuries, making marvelous inventions before us, all these great minds at work have not prevented humanity from jeopardizing the whole lovely ecosystem we live in that allowed these wonderful minds of ours to develop in the first place. That's right. And she brought the world into it now. We're sitting in our rooms, comfortable in our bodies, realizing how important our bodies are. And now she brought the world into it. So how did it come about? This earth of ours, now stretched to its carrying capacity. And we know, because we're smart people, that our comfort and the comfort of our next generation depends upon the healing and the continued health of the earth. And we know in our minds, we got to do something. But most people just shut down when I bring it up. Literally. Maybe we need to repair the quantum room right now. Examine how you're feeling. This was a turn I took in my talk. We began by acknowledging the wonders of our physical being, acknowledging how far our evolution has taken us, acknowledging that, yes, perhaps the mind and mysteries meet right in our bodies. And then I brought up our precious bodies live in a world that is challenged right now. Take a breath. Understanding our current situation in the world is complicated. One psychologist has called what's happening to us an anxiety-driven regression in functioning. Think for a moment about the state of discourse around you. Think for a moment about some of the reactions that have happened in governments, politics. I don't preach politically. That's up to you to worry about. But think how that disturbs and impacts the way you are able to take actions in the world. Think how hard it is to understand and grasp what climate scientists and eco-scientists are telling us about our habitat. I believe this is because our spiritual evolution, our cultural evolution have not kept up with our technical and intellectual evolution. We've not become wiser as a group than the cruelty of some who have taken too much from our earth home. That's what I believe. And I believe most of us understand that deep in our hearts. And it makes us despair. And that's why it's so hard to know what to do. I'm not a political preacher, but I believe our systems have been co-opted by people who take too much, institutions we can't get a message to. Here's an example of how I think it is. We have a voice in this country. That's true. We have the vote. But let me put it this way. Let's say you have a bunch of friends over and you're deciding what to have for dinner. Most of your friends vote for pizza, but some vote to kill you and eat you. Even if pizza wins, you still have a serious problem. So whatever your politics are, we all know that most of us are voting for pizza, for a healthy world, for a fair world, for a world where we don't just desecrate the planet. But we know that systems are in place that are diminishing lives and putting our ecosystem in jeopardy. So what do we do about that? That's hard. We have lived on this cusp for a couple of centuries. And I didn't know what to do about it either until I discovered the work of the Jesuit scientist and philosopher and mystic Pierre Teilhard de Chardin and his prophetic set of writings. Settle in your seat, take a breath. Help is on the way. Teilhard was not quite kicked out by the Jesuits, but he was silenced. And if you're Catholic, you can't read his stuff. We're not Catholic. We get to read it. Teilhard's work transcends any Christianity you might be imagining, and he gives tangible hope, a genuine antidote to despair, which I believe is the worst sin there is. In one of his books written in the 1950s, he wrote this: in a hermetically closed world, we were destined one day to end up in a total collective death. Whoa! He wrote that after the Second World War. He saw what was happening. And he asked the question, has humanity lost its desire to achieve its destiny? Hard words to hear. I have to think that Teilhard was a prophet just as accurate as any other. This is sounding familiar, isn't it? Because this is the way preachers usually do things. They tell you how awful things are, and then they tell you how to save us all. What's different about this talk is that I have already told you in advance. We already have the answer. It's right in our hearts. It's right here, and it's right now in the room with you people joined together in a quantum church. You have it. You're there. So stick with me. Remember, this is sacred space. We are safe in holy time. Teilhard, this Jesuit scientist, did not believe we would have to think our way out of this situation or pray our way out of the problem either. He said, if we were willing in this time, we could enter what he called the Omega point, the global unity of consciousness that would be necessary for the world to reach in order to save itself. It was an audacious proposal. He wanted the whole world to awaken to the hymn of the universe, a renewed awareness of the sacredness of physical matter. No more pie in the sky, no more waiting around to get to heaven, no more dissing the real or the body. Teilhard was heretical in a way against the teachings of the church that had said the body was less than. In fact, he went to the desert and performed a mass on the world. If some of you know Teilhard's work, I hope you're resonating with this. He consecrated the earth itself. He said the mass with the earth itself as the elements of communion with the cosmic Christ he perceived as the great I am. He excluded no one from this mass. He reunited mind with spirit and once again re-embodied the soul in the actual earth. Teilhard was doing this spiritual work emerging from a tradition that had for centuries and in so many ways sought to divorce the body as lesser than the mind or the spirit. That may be a reason why many of you have rejected Christianity, and I don't blame you. This was a great theological development. As I said, the Jesuits would have expelled him, except he was too important a scientist. Do you know he was part of the archaeological and paleontological expedition that discovered the skull of Peking man? He was no lightweight. And like Gandhi, Martin Luther King, like every Native American and indigenous leader whose practices white people have appropriated but never appreciated, Teilhard insisted that humanity must honor the physical world intentionally and spiritually by making it sacred. We are sacred now. In this time and space, we are holy. Just as the Transcendentalist movement, the Age of Aquarius, the people over the last couple of centuries, over against the Industrial Revolution, over against the Silicon Revolution, have said, no, we must retain ourselves in the real. Teilhard prophetically called in the mid-20th century for the Omega point, the Omega consciousness, which would have a global leveling up to a new state of being. Is this ambitious? Yes. Is it a lot of woo-woo stuff? No. It is not somewhere out there. It's here and now. It's here and now. It's right here. It's right now. For these virtual services to be a shared worship experience, each of us must lean into the words you hear. Understand they are only part of what has happened. It's an artificial closeness by necessity, but it is one that each of you are allowed to make happen for yourself. Let your brain release pheromones. Let your brain hear the words saying, you are one with this sacred earth. Not only are you good enough and smart enough, you're holy. You're whole. We practice together in the worship time, reminding ourselves that the earth itself is holy, and so are you. Then, with a concentrated hour of practicing, remembering what is holy, you perhaps will be more empowered to spread this global awareness in the other hours of your week. I find myself in my daily life alone in my house now, since my husband passed 6 months ago, talking gently and gratefully to the things around me, thanking things for their service to me, praising the plants for their growth, reminding myself that everything around me has been blessed by the Creator to my use. Perhaps it's foolish. I don't care. Because it reminds me that if I consecrate my life to this reality, then the reality will also continue to help my biological soul-building machine to build my soul. Teilhard offered us a bleak vision, a prophetic vision of what might happen if we do not help heal the earth we live in. Science is offering us a bleak reality ahead. Actions can be taken, but only if we have the soul strength to do it. We may strengthen our spirits with contemplation, as Richard Rohr tells us, the appreciation of the naked now. Not this is, I'm quoting from him, full access knowing, he calls it. Not irrational, but pre-rational, non-rational, rational, and trans-rational all at once. And this is what I believe worship time should help us with. Continuing from Richard Rohr, an exercise in keeping your heart and mind spaces open long enough for the mind to see other hidden material. It is content with the naked now. We can and must nurture our spirits in contemplative ways, but the souls that we are building can only help the healing of the greater physical world if they're connected to our own real physical world. If we spend time barefoot in the grass and talk respectfully to the trees and apologize to the insects we must kill and thank the food we eat and give praise to the sky when it's glorious and fear the storms that are verging out of control, remembering that the earth is wounded and angry and our climate is showing it. And we may also walk outside before a storm anyway to smell the ozone in the air. And if we can seek out the small ways in which we can heal the harm that we humans have done to this holy place we live in and immerse ourselves in the music that will strengthen us and empower us and take us where words cannot take us, then we can face each day with what Teilhard said would be our best and only redemption, an immense, completely human hope. Not thinking our way out of a problem, not praying our way to a solution, but simply embodying an immense, completely human hope. Because hope is the gateway to your soul, where the music plays and takes us on a mystery tour, where the mysteries meet and consecrate your entire being, right here, right now, wherever you are, within the sacred physical world that gave us life. And so I believe it is. And so it may be spread with joy among others in this mystery tour. And so it ever shall be. Amen.
Thank you, Reverend Tata. Christine has graciously offered to answer a few questions if anybody has some. I'd ask that if you could go to the bottom of your screen in reactions and raise your hand, and that will pop you to the head of the list. So and then I'll recognize you and you can unmute and comment. And I have one question. I'll get to Susan in just a minute. Let me ask this question that somebody else had submitted. You have many varied life experiences in your lifetime. Could you briefly comment about how you found your way to the ministry and how your various pathways have contributed to your approach to ministry?
Yeah, that's a good question. When I was a child, I was raised in a pretty secular household. We went to UU Church for protective coloration. so that the Baptist and Methodist kids could say, where do you go to church? And I could say, well, I go somewhere. I had mystical spirit experiences all my life, but they never seemed to fit any denomination. When I had young children, it occurred to me that I needed to honor those mystical experiences and go find out if anybody else had them too. So I went to seminary because I love school. We were living in Denver, and Iliff Seminary was there, very progressive seminary. And I honestly made a list of all the things I loved to do and where I thought my aptitudes would fit. And being a preacher was where I thought they would fit. So I went there thinking I would be a UU minister, just, wide open. I wasn't really following Jesus or anything. And I discovered there that this is what I had to do. Because there were too many people in despair for no good reason. What made me come and go out of ministry is that I don't do it well. I don't do it well. It drains me. I don't save enough. I spend 2 or 3 years in ministry, and then I am drained, and I have to go do something secular to get back. So that's what I mean. I'm not a good pastor. I mean, I'm just not. And I love people. I comfort them. I do all the work. I do it right, but I don't know how to pace myself. Let's just say that. That's my reflection. So I go do work in the secular world, which is great. I learn new stuff and bring that next time I have a ministry. So that's why I'm in and out. I think it does help. I think it does give me good insight that somebody who's just only in the church might not have. So that's kind of my story. Does that answer your question a little bit?
Yes, it does. Thank you very much. Susan, will you unmute, and Michael Johnson will be next.
Okay. Thank you, Christine. I loved your share with us, and appreciate your teachings. I did want to ask you to expand a little bit, because I don't really know how to describe this, but I had a physical reaction when you said biological soul building machines, because I've always I was touched once when when I read, it wasn't my quote, I wish it were, but someone had written, we should stop saying that we had a spiritual experience, because we're really spiritual beings having a human experience. That's the exception, right? And then the other thing, and this is where I had a request, maybe for you to expand a little bit, because the other physical sort of response I felt was when you talked about music versus words, and at what stage, and where do you think that kicks? I mean, is it the fact that the music and the words are music and the lyrics are melded together? Why does it affect us so differently? Because I am powerfully moved by words. I'm an avid reader, and I'll go, if I go to a speech or something, I'm just ready to light the world on fire. But music is different, and it has a very different impact. I just wonder if you have any insight as to sort of why that has that feeling.
Oh, good. Thank you. I love that. I could talk for hours about that. And I believe most people will have visceral reactions to music. Some people, it soothes their mind, and so they can study better somehow. I can't do that. If music is playing, that is all I can do, is be in the music. Unless I'm digging in the dirt or mopping the floor. Music can help me do physical things, but it is so overwhelming to me. Or I sing along, so it's embarrassing. But they are, and we know this from science. It triggers all kinds of feeling. Another interesting thing is that in pre-literate, for example, in the Middle Ages, why do we have hymns? Why hymns? Why, the people learned, they didn't all have hymnals, but they would learn the words, and it was a teaching tool. You put something to music, people can remember it better. And so if everybody didn't have, a book to take home with them, you put it to music, people can remember, the teaching. So that's important. And the chanting during the liturgy, that all reinforces the word message. They do melt together. How many of you can remember advertising jingles that get stuck in your head? Yes, that's powerful. Advertisers realize that, man, you put your little advertising jingle to music, it's there. It can be there forever. I made a pastoral call to a woman who was in her late 80s, had some dementia. She had been born in Germany and had lost lost most of her English. Had lost many memories, but still could sing the hymns that she had learned in German, and sang to me hymns in German that she had learned as a child. Those are powerful tools. There's also evidence, I'm sorry, I can go on this for hours. There's evidence that our language developed first as singing. That the first utterances humans began to make were songs. So the powerful responses that we have to words are not that far from the powerful response we have to music. But here's another thing I know from my studies, not only in language studies in my doctoral work, but from theater. How you say those words really matters. It really does. I went to school for this for a long time. And it's not inauthentic to take a lot of care to learn how to say words. You see how careful I'm being right now. I could just careless and say, well, you got to say the words. But I want you to hear me and understand. So I'm taking care with how I say my words. We learned that because in the sacred space of theater, our goal is not for you to see us, but our goal is for you to have an experience, to communicate to you. And in sacred worship space, that's the goal as well. So the work we do with the music and the liturgy and the preaching is all for the recipient. It takes a lot of work. Some people are very good at it. Some people work at it. And it's because we know that each of you is hungry for an experience. Does that help?
So much. Thank you very much. I love that. Wrote down a lot of notes.
I think we've got time for one more question. Michael?
Where's Michael?
There we go. We have switched because we have two computers in the same room. This isn't why I raised my hand, but I love what you just said about the music of our voices, because I am aware of that all the time. My question is, or my request, I suppose, really, is that we are, or at least most of us, by history and some now, Unitarian Universalists, and so that's an odd aggregation of people, as you know as well as I do. And so we have among us here people who I love, who are dedicated and determined, logical, rational, empirical materialists. And I wonder what you would say to those people to bring them a little closer to what you're trying to bring us here this morning.
Yeah, it's such a good question, and I tread so carefully to respect those views. I'll put it this way: if I am a rational materialist and I decline to, I won't say reject or refuse, I decline to go further and say that I accept concepts of holiness that I can't prove. Let's say, I'm trying to say it fairly, or that I myself have not had personally a mystical experience. Therefore, I can't really speak to it. That would be fair to say. I would still ask that rationalist, what harm does it do if we say this matter, this physical world that surrounds us, that is the limit or the boundary of your life, that you honor, let's say, as real, and that you respect as all that is. If your fellow in community calls it sacred and holy, what's the harm? Can we live side by side? If I see a table runner made of linen and I believe that it's blue-green and you believe that it's green-blue, isn't that all right? That's what I'd say. But it's difficult. I'm also aware that the words we use to describe those things don't resonate often. Sometimes don't resonate with all the different people in a Unitarian Universalist congregation. And I have stepped in it many times. So it's not easy. But with love and grace, if everyone gives each other grace, gives each other room, and accepts each other, it can be all right. I have to say this, and I'll be blunt. Progressive Unitarian Universalist style congregations can be the most intolerant within themselves of others' beliefs.
Oh, we know that.
Okay.
That's why we're here.
It's the truth. It's the truth. But I love them for it. I love them for it.
Okay. Thank you.
What else?
I think we'll thank you very much for the presentation today.
Oh.
And now we will have our closing words by Susan.
May I just ask one thing?
Oh, certainly.
Before that, is everyone all right? Okay. Love you all. Thank you. Closing words.
Thank you very much.
Before I do the closing words, I'm going to go off script for 1 second and just say, Christine, I am very sorry for your recent loss of your husband, but glad you're finding comfort in your beliefs and your rituals, and you're continuing to grow. That's remarkable.
Thank you.
We are so grateful to all of you for being here. A very special thanks to Reverend Christine for such a thoughtful and meaningful sermon. No matter where your mind and mystery meet, revel in the awe and mystery that is. Go into the world with loving kindness. And now, to take us out.
Well, what a mystery tour this has been today. So thanks for sharing. If your mystery tour needs to take you someplace else right now, we're going to say goodbye and send you out with our love ritual. But if you want to and can continue this mystery tour a while longer with Joan facilitating Joys and Concerns, we'd love to have you. So if you have to go, we'll see you next time. We'll see you later. We love you. We'll send you off with love and hugs and kisses. Thank you again, Reverend Christine. What an awesome day you've set for us. So with that, I will turn it over to Joan Denson.